It is time to finally review the MCU's debut of Marvel's God of Thunder.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Lucimus Prime here, so it is time for another movie review in my review series for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and today I'm going to be reviewing what is of course the fourth installment of the franchise, and of course the fourth one in phase 1 of the MCU, and this is for a movie which is actually the debut of another member of the Avengers, who is based on the Norse God of Thunder of the same name, of course, which is none other than 2011's Thor, the first movie, which is of course directed by Kenneth Branagh, and of course is the live-action debut of Thor himself, the Marvel version of Thor, of course, based on Norse mythology. So, how was this movie made? So the film has been was in development hell for several years, and the rights were then picked up, of course, when Marvel signed Mark Protasevic to develop a project in 2006. And of course, several directors were approached to direct it, of course, and Kenneth Branagh was eventually approached, and the film was scheduled to be released, of course, in 2011. The main cast was casted in 2009, and the filming took place in California and New Mexico from January to May 2010, and the film was also converted to 3D in post-production. Thor premiered in Sydney on April 17th, 2011, and was released in the United States on May 6th as part of Phase 1 of the MCU. It received generally positive reviews from critics and was a financial success, earning $449.3 million worldwide. So, when it comes to, of course, what I think of this movie, guys, so I, of course, saw this movie for the first time several years ago, and I gotta say that, in my opinion, this movie is really good. And I actually think it's one of the MCU's most underrated movies of all time. I think it's definitely, a really good movie, really good to watch. And especially the last time to rewatch on my Blu-ray of it was definitely, a very good experience to rewatch. So, what is this movie about? So, after reigniting a dormant war, Thor, who is, of course, played by Chris Hemsworth, is banished from Asgard to Earth, stripped of his powers and his hammer Mjolnir, as his brother Loki, who is played by Tom Hiddleston, plots to take the Asgardian throne. Thor must prove himself worthy. So, when it comes to what I think is good about a movie, so the film has a pretty great cast of lots of very talented actors. So the main character, Thor himself, is played by Chris Hemsworth, and I consider Thor to be Chris Hemsworth's best role that I've seen, in my opinion. I think he does a really amazing job bringing the God of Thunder to life in his debut as a character. And he'd of course, gone to play in later movies in the MCU. And, yeah, I think Chris Hemsworth definitely embodies who Thor is as a character. And I hope he's, of course, doing well nowadays, of course. I hope he's doing well. Then in his debut as Thor, he did a great job bringing him to life. I also, as well, love the casting of Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, who is, of course, the scientist in this movie who becomes Thor's love interest. I thought she played her part really well in this movie. And I consider it to be one of Natalie Portman's best roles I've seen from her. Although my favourite role of hers always will be Padme in Star Wars, though, but I still think she was really great in this film as Jane Foster. And I definitely, as well, really loved, as well, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, who is Thor's mischievous brother. And, yeah, Tom Hiddleston was also, in my opinion, a perfect casting for the role of Loki. He totally embodies how mischievous Loki is as a trickster. He's just a perfect casting right there. And in this movie, he really nailed it, in my opinion. And it's definitely one of my favourite villains in the MCU of all time as well. Absolutely. And I also, as well, love the casting of Stellan Skarsgård as Eric Selvig, who is, of course, a scientist who is working with Jane Foster in New Mexico, who meets Thor. And, yeah, Stellan Skarsgård played his part really well in this movie. Although my favourite role of his is Bootstrap Bill Turner in Pirates of the Caribbean, but I still think he was great in this film as Eric Selvig. And I also, as well, when it comes to another villain in the movie, I like the addition of Corm Fjord as Laufey, who is, of course, the king of the Frost Giants. And I think he played his part really well in this movie, and the makeup for him was also very impressive too. Like, wow. Like, 5 hours of makeup was definitely worth it, you know, for Colin Farrell's performance. It was very good makeup, in my opinion. And I think he did a very good job bringing Laufey to life. And, yeah, I think Laufey might probably be an example for me of like an underrated MCU villain who deserves more attention, in my opinion. And when it comes to other Asgardians, I definitely as well love the casting of Idris Elba as Heimdall, who is, of course, the all-seeing, all-hearing Asgardian sentry of a Bifrost bridge. And Idris Elba, you know, he's a great actor, and Heimdall is definitely one of my favourite roles of him, and he plays part very well in this movie, and he'd go on to play a role in several other films in the MCU, and yeah, he definitely did a very good job playing Heimdall in his debut as him. And I also as well like the addition of Jamie Alexander as Sif as well. I think she played her part really well in this movie as well. And in addition as well, I also like the casting of the Warriors 3 as well. For example, I definitely loved Ray Stevenson as Volstagg. I think he was very good in this movie. And also Tadanobu Asano as Hogan, and also Josh Dallas as Fandral as well. And I think they were definitely, you know, very good castings, in my opinion, for the three of them. And also, as well, when it comes to Thor's parents, of course, we get the introduction of none other than Sir Anthony Hopkins, of course, as Odin, who is, of course, the ruler of Asgard and the father of Thor and the adoptive father of Loki. And Odin is definitely, you know, played by Sir Anthony Hopkins. Sir Anthony Hopkins is a phenomenal actor, and one of my favourite role of his always will be Hannibal Lecter, though, in The Silence of the Lambs. I still think that Odin was played very well by him, in my opinion, and I also as well liked Renée Russo as Frigga, who's, of course, Thor's mother and the adopted mother of Loki. I think she played a part very well in her first appearance as her as well. And see, this film was very good, and also returning from previous MCU movies as well is Clark Gregg reprising his role as Agent Phil Coulson of S.H.I.E.L.D. And yeah, Coulson is a very likeable character in this franchise, created for the MCU as well. And I think, you know, Clark Gregg, you know, always, you know, played him really well. And this is definitely no exception, of course. And also, when it comes to introduction as well, the film also has a pretty cool cameo appearance by another member of the Avengers, who would later, of course, go on to appear in the epic crossover being Avengers Assemble in 2012, which is a pretty awesome appearance from none other than Hawkeye. So, wow, that was definitely really amazing to see Hawkeye in this, and I consider Hawkeye to be my all-time favourite role of Jeremy Renner. Like, Jeremy Renner was also a perfect casting for Hawkeye in his first appearance as him, and I, of course, hope he's doing well, of course, following his accidents, of course, at the start of the new year, so I hope he's doing well nowadays. And also, as well, when it comes to other good things besides the cast of the movie, I also as well definitely think the story was very good. It does a very good job adapting Norse mythology in this franchise very well, and the story was very good. And it's all about you know finding worthiness and stuff like that. And the film also does execute a very good plot twist as well in this. So I think one example of a plot twist is probably the revelation, of course, that Loki is not of course Thor's actual proper brother. He's instead, of course, only the adoptive child of Odin and Frigga, because his father is Laufey, meaning that all this time Loki is a frost giant. So that was definitely, you know, a very good plot twist right there, in my opinion, that worked very well for it, and the story was definitely very good, and the film also has lots of very good action scenes as well, of course. We get a pretty nice opening, of course, showing the war between, you know, the Asgardians and the Frost Giants of Jotunheim, was definitely a good start, of course, introducing us to the world of Norse mythology in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and also as well, the film also does have a couple of, you know, some funny moments. Like, one part that I definitely get a good laugh at is when Thor drinks coffee in a cafe and he wants another and he throws the mug onto the floor. Like, that was actually pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. And another thing which also I think is very good about this movie, and why I think it's also underrated, is also as well because of the visual effects. Because I think for me, which is from 2011, the effects have definitely aged very well, in my opinion. The CGI is very top notch for it, and from last night's rewatch, I definitely think it's not got old. I think it's definitely aged really well. I think the Infinity Saga as a whole has aged pretty well in terms of the visual effects, for the most part. And this movie is probably no exception, really, to that. Because I think this film's visual effects are brilliant, and the CGI is just absolutely fantastic for 2011 standards. And the music was also very good in this, composed by Patrick Doyle, who I believe is like a frequent collaborator with Kenneth Branagh, so it makes sense for him to compose the music for this movie. And yeah, his music for this was really good in my opinion. Also as well, the film also does have as well some other good moments too, in the form of cameo appearances. So I've already mentioned Hawkeye's, of course, introduction as an uncredited cameo appearance, but there's also, of course, a cameo appearance by the legendary Stan Lee, may he rest in peace, because he makes one of the most hilarious cameos I've seen from him, of course. So, where he's, of course, playing like a truck driver who is trying to pull Mjolnir out of the ground where it crashed in. And of course, but what's hilarious is he can't pull it, and as a result, the truck bed breaks off, and because of that noise, he turns around asking, did it work? And then it results in his co-workers laughing, and like that part was just so hilarious, like so funny. And I'd also as well believe that J. Michael Straczynski also had a cameo appearance in that scene as well, which was also pretty cool as well. So yeah, we got two comic writers here, and of course Stan Lee, who is of course responsible for co-creating Thor alongside many other amazing characters. So yeah. But yeah, rest in peace, Stan Lee. You're an absolute legend. You really are, and I'll never forget you. Yeah, thank you for everything that you've done for Marvel. Also, as well, when it comes to other great things, as well as, of course, a very good story as well. I think the story is also very well paced, in my opinion, as well, because this movie is 114 minutes, so, like, it's 6 minutes short of being 2 hours, and in my opinion, the pacing is really good. Like, it doesn't really get boring or, like, too fast, in my opinion. I think it moves at a very good pace, to be honest, and, like, it's not as boring, in my opinion, as Iron Man 2 was, in my opinion, as I talked about in my review for that movie, but I think this one, in my opinion, has a much better pace. And the fight scenes, for what worth, are also very good to watch as well. I think one definitely that is a highlight for me is probably the fight with the Destroyer towards the end of the movie. I think the Destroyer was very well designed, in my opinion, and the visual effects of that were very good, and the fight scene in it was very good, and the scene where, of course, Thor proves himself to be worthy was also very good, in my opinion. And yeah, I definitely like the story of Thor wanting to find Worth. A very good idea, in my opinion, for a movie about Thor. It was definitely very good, in my opinion, and also as well, the movie also does have a very exciting ending as well, because if you guys have seen the movie, you'll be aware that in the final moments of the movie, of course, we get a pretty good fight between Loki and Thor, of course, on the Bifrost Bridge. And of course, Loki falls, and he ends up in a wormhole, of course, and we at first think he's defeated, but it turns out that that's not the case, because he's actually arrived on Earth. We, of course, then get a post-credit scene where Eric Selvig is in a S.H.I.E.L.D. facility, and he gets to meet Nick Fury, played once again by Samuel L. Jackson, of course, reprising his role from previous MCU movies, and he asks him to study a mysterious cube-shaped object, which, of course, is none other than the Tesseract. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? So, yeah, we get, a nice, introduction to a Tesseract right there. And Fury says it may hold untold power. And then we see an invisible Loki prompting Eric Selvig to agree. So that's confirming that Loki is, of course, still alive. And is setting up more to come in the future, which, of course, was leading to the very exciting crossover between the Avengers. So, yeah, definitely a very good way to end, of course, the movie, in my opinion. It's setting up more to come as well. And what was also great, of course, was that, the movie, made sure it focused on Thor, of course. So, as well as having, of course, the uncredited cameo appearance by Hawkeye, though, despite that, the film does focus a lot on Thor. It doesn't try to set up more of, like, a shared universe or whatever. Thankfully, it remains focused on Thor, which I really appreciate about, the movies which introduce these characters, like Iron Man and Thor, Hulk, and, of course, Captain America, as I will talk about in the next review, of course. So, yeah. So, yeah, when it comes to this movie, guys, I think it's a very underrated movie that deserves more attention, and it's definitely, you know, a very good film, which is very good to watch, in my opinion. And probably my second favourite Thor movie behind Thor Ragnarok, of course, in 2017, so... However, though, while it may be a good movie, in my opinion, though, there is unfortunately some bad qualities I do have with a movie, so... Now, the first one, in my opinion, is that I personally am not really much of a fan of Darcy in this movie, played by Kat Dennings. Like, in my opinion, she's pretty annoying, to be honest, and really gets on my nerves in her scenes, really. So, yeah, I wasn't really a fan of Darcy that much. But she was, thankfully, more tolerable in this compared to the next movie, and of course, in the animated What If series. Oh, God. She was, thankfully, more tolerable in this compared to those. And another bad quality I do also have with a movie, yeah, as well, is also probably as well, the scene, and of course, where Odin somehow ends up in what's called the Odin sleep. Like, that was just, you know, really confusing, really, in my opinion. It didn't really make sense. Like, it came out of nowhere how it happened. Like, I don't understand how it happened. Like, it came out of nowhere. They didn't explain why Odin suddenly passed out like that. That was just really confusing, and unfortunately, because of that, Odin barely had any screen time in the film, sadly, which was a shame. But for what it was worth, Anthony Hopkins still played his part really well in this, and also as well, I guess maybe when Thor gets, of course, stripped of his worthiness, maybe, you know, he was being a bit unlikable in that scene, of course, and when he got stripped of being worthy. So yeah, that was, of course, you know, definitely, you know, not a very good scene in my opinion, because how unlikable Thor was, how he proved to not be worthy. So yeah, but nonetheless, well, Chris Hemsworth still did a great job bringing Thor to life in this, and Thor had a very good character development to a movie where he goes from being, of course, you know, from being very rude to his father, and then, of course, becoming, you know, more likable and worthy later on, of course. So yeah, but nonetheless, I think Thor from 2011 is a very underrated movie that deserves more attention. So if I was to give Thor a score out of 10, guys, so because of all those bad qualities that I mentioned just then earlier, I'd probably give it a very solid score of 8 out of 10. That's what I give it. In my opinion, a very underrated movie, but you know, deserves more love to me, because I think it's a very good one. So yeah. So guys, this is me doing my review for Thor from 2011. So you know, drill, guys, be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments what you guys think of Thor from 2011. If you've seen it, what you think. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe when it come in the future. If you would like to be a member, you can press join if you're using a PC laptop, or you can load a subscription, and I'll see you all later.